All right, welcome everybody. This is going to be a little lesson on basic editing in Studio One. We're going to start by recording a poem, a little voiceover, and then I'll show you some of the basic editing tools that we can use to kind of manipulate the recording in terms of trimming and moving things around, doing crossfades, that sort of thing. So I'm going to start with a little poem by William Faulkner about time, and let's go to the computer and watch me record this. All right, so here we are in Studio One. I've got a voiceover track created already, so I think we're ready to go. Clocks slay time. Time is dead as long as it is... Oh, I made a mistake. Let me try again. Clocks slay time. Time is dead as long as it is being clicked off by little wheels. Only when the clock stops does time come to life. All right, so here we have our recording, and I made a little boo-boo, kind of on purpose. So let's check this out. I'm going to go ahead and take this out of record mode so that I can do some playback. And here's what we have. Clocks slay time. Time is dead as long as it is... Oh, I made a mistake. Let me try again. Okay, so one of the most basic things with editing is the ability to either cut or trim things that you don't want. So there's two ways that you can do this. And let's just remind you that I'm following the keyboard shortcuts for the Pro Tools mapping scheme. So there's some shortcuts that I use that kind of follow in that vein. So if you're not there, you might want to go and change your preferences to the Pro Tools keyboard mapping scheme. All right, so if you look at the top of the screen, we have some tools right here, and we can click on one of these or the other, or I like to just click on this bracket, which kind of gives me the sort of super tool or the smart tool in Pro Tools is what they call it. And I want you to watch my cursor. We have this piece of audio. If I'm above the mid line of this audio, it selects, right? And because I'm in grid mode, it's actually selecting on the grid. Let's turn that off. That way I can just select freely and it won't snap to any grid lines. Okay, that's cool. So I can make a selection. If I go below the midway point, it changes to the arrow, and now I can move things around. Okay, so I'm going to start by showing you a couple ways to trim off my false start. And one way would be to go all the way to the left edge and then trim it to where I want it to start. Let me check and see. Clocks. So that's the beginning of the good take, if you will. And I could do the same thing at the end. I could trim it back this way, like that. So now that I have it trimmed down, maybe I want to go below that midway point and just move it to the beginning of the timeline, right? All right, so let me undo that and show you another possibility. The other possibility would be to cut this piece of audio, and I can simply do that by double-clicking, which creates a cut, and then I can go here and I can delete that first chunk of audio, the false take. So that's another way that I could do that. And of course I could cut here as well, and I could delete that, and we end up with pretty much the same result. So I'd like to show you one more method. And it looks like this. So now what I'm going to do is I know that this is the part that I want to keep. So I'm going to make a selection. Now I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut, which depending on your computer is going to be Control E, or in my case Windows E. And what it does is it makes a selection where it basically cuts out whatever you have selected. So we can see that there's a cut here and a cut here, and I can simply get rid of this stuff at the beginning and the end, and I can move it to the beginning like that. So now if we check it out, clocks slay time. Time is dead as long as it is being clicked off by little wheels. Well, all right, so that's cool. So those are some different ways that we can trim off the stuff we don't want. let's go ahead and do some fades. So if you listen to the beginning, if you can hear it, I've got a breath, which is fine. It's natural, but maybe I want to de-emphasize that breath a little bit. So I'm going to grab the upper left-hand corner here, and I'm just going to do a little fade in. Let's listen to that.
Clock.
Yeah.
Clock. Clocks.
So it kind of de-emphasizes that little breath and lip smack that I had at the beginning. And I could do the same thing at the end.
Come to life.
There is some ambient noise here in the room, kind of a hum and, sounds. So I'm going to just fade out after that last word.
Come to life.
And it does a really nice job of just fading it into oblivion. So we call this tops and tails, when we kind of trim and then do fade in and fade out at the beginning and the end of the track, just to clean things up a little bit. So since I've got you here, now that we know how to trim, we know how to do some fades, I'd like to maybe tighten up the pacing of this a little bit. Let's listen to it again.
Clocks slay time. Time is dead, as long as it is being clicked off by little wheels. Only when the clocks...
So, I mean, it sounds pretty natural, but let's just say that we wanted to kind of tighten up the timing a little bit. I'm going to cut here, and I'm going to grab this and move it so it's a little bit closer. And now you can see that there's a little bit of an overlap between those two pieces of audio. So we always want to make sure that when we cut something, and if we're splicing stuff together, that we include a crossfade, where one piece of audio is fading out while the other one is fading in. And this will avoid little clicks or pops that might occur where you have an edit where there might be sound, even if it's background sound. So I'm going to create a crossfade by just hitting the letter X on the keyboard. 1, 2, 3, go. And there it is. I'll zoom in so you can see it. So now we have a crossfade between these two pieces of audio. And by the way, that can be manipulated. So you can actually move that back and forth. If you notice that when my cursor goes below, we have the X and then the forwards and backwards. So we can actually adjust where the crossfade is. And we can also go up here and adjust the size of the crossfade. We can make it bigger. And we grab this handle, we can make it a logarithmic fade, an exponential fade, or it can just be a linear fade. Sometimes I find the logarithmic fades are a little bit smoother, so that we don't get a dip as the two pieces of audio are crossing each other. All right, so now let's go back one more time. Listen from the top.
Clocks slay time. Time is dead.
So right there, I'm really close on the mic. I think I went right in on it, and it just feels a little bit strong. So I'm going to show you yet another editing tool that I like to do sometimes in this stage of the process, where I'm going to select that sort of loud bit. I'm going to use my keyboard shortcut, Control-E, which is going to separate that little piece of audio. And then I'm going to grab this handle at the top, which is going to allow us to change the gain of that clip just for that piece. And I'm going to bring the gain as if I recorded it at a lower level. So I'm going to pull the gain back a little bit, and let's listen to it in context.
Slay time. Time is dead.
Maybe even a little bit more.
Clocks slay time. Time is dead, as long as it is being clicked.
So that's a lot more smooth in terms of level, or more consistent from the beginning of the recording. So these are the things that we can do, that anyone can do, just to kind of clean up the audio that you've recorded. It's easy to learn, actually, and you can save yourself a lot of time in the mixing process by making sure that you've cleaned up the audio, maybe done some leveling in terms of gain before you start, doing mixing and adding processors and compression and all those kinds of things. And just cleaning up and making sure all of your edits are clean, that you have crossfades, there's no clicks or pops. So I hope this was helpful. Be sure to watch this a few times if you need to, and we'll see you on the next one.